It's funny, right? This hobby, retro gaming, it's quite an expensive one. But thanks to the power of Blaze Entertainment and the Evercade, it makes it a lot more simple. And makes it a lot more easier and easy, it's an easier hobby to get into. And, let's explain. Right now, obviously, like I was saying, retro gaming is quite an expensive hobby. If you're not someone with thousands and thousands of dollars or pounds or whatever your currency is, or millions of the currency to expend on disposable income, which you can then use to spend on collecting like the old Ataris and Nintendos and Segas and Sonys and whatever. You're probably thinking, you want to get into that sort of hobby. How do you do it? How do you do it? Because you haven't got millions and millions and millions and millions to spend. So how else do you collect games, and how else do you play the retro games? Well, that's where this bad boy comes in. Because if I just give my little collection, which is right here, and if I turn it around, I have 10 of the 16 available carts, and they got some gems there, man. They got some gems. They got Namco, they got Oliver Twin, Pico, Interplay. I've got both the Interplay ones here. Data East, I know I shouldn't be carrying stacks of games around with me, but that's the beautiful part, right? And they've got the arcade games. Yeah, we've got some of the console ports on the system already, but they're console ports of arcade games on the system, which aren't always as great. So basically, right? Why is it so great? Well, you can emulate the NES, the Super Nintendo, you can Sega Mega Drive with the mouse system. Will you shut up? It's my neighbours across the way. And what it is also the run of it's Game Boy Advance. It can run arcade games, obviously. So, if you're into that sort of stuff, I know it's not something that emulate PS1 games, which give me a Doom collection. Then give me a Doom collection, and we'll be good. But basically, the system, like if you want to get into hobby, it's quite unique because it's very cheap. Like for me to get the premium pack for this, it cost me like 80 quid. And obviously it came with free carts, which is like, I know in the UK, the ones they give you are Atari 1, Namco 1, and Interplay 1. Which I know in the US it's Atari 1, Interplay 1, and Data East 1. But, it's got a decent selection of games as well. Like some of the games, you can buy on the Sega Mega Drive today, or Genesis, whatever you call it. But it's they cost you like 50 quid to get the cartridges new, and this is coming from like the new homebrew stuff from like Megacat Studios and Pico and all that stuff. So it's actually a better deal because if I go to like, where is it? Here is my collection copy of the Megacat Studios collection. There's 10 games on there. Some of these are Sega Genesis games, some of these are Super Nintendo games. Some of these games will set you back like 20, 30 quid each. It cost me 20 quid to get this collection of 10 games. You got Pico, which some of these games are games that were released and never got re-released, and the license was lost. I dropped the manual. But some of these games were lost for time and they bought up and whatnot. So some of the games you can't even I don't think you can even buy some of them anymore. And what's kind of beautiful about the system is they offer. There's going to be 280 games on this thing by the end of the year. That's for retro collectors, right? Obviously, each cartridge has between 2 and 20 games. What are you doing? If you're not trying to collect this, if you're not collecting for this system, if you're not collecting for the Evercade, what are you doing? If you want to get into retro games, yeah, sure. Maybe you don't want to play the Atari stuff. Fine. Maybe you don't want to play the Namco stuff. Fine. There'll be something for you. You've got that Xenocrisis of this Tanglewood collection, which I still need to get my hands on. Which obviously it's only 2 games, but they're 2 games which are modern and they were made for Sega Genesis. They're homebrew games, which looks kind of cool. They've got the Indie Heroes collection, so they've got homebrew stuff as well, which some of the stuff is in very limited quantities. Because remember, we're talking about some of these games that were homebrews for like the NES, Super Nintendo, Game Boy in 2021, and obviously the Game Boy Advance and the Game Boy are the most recent ones, and the Game Boy Advance is phased out in 2008. They phased it out for the DS and then few years later, they phased the DS out with the 3DS. And basically, that's just the way it all goes. But this thing can play most things up to the PlayStation. I know I can't do N64 yet, which, to be fair, with the controller layout, you've got 4 buttons here, 2 shoulder buttons up here, and the D-pad, and start select, obviously. I don't know if you'd really want to play N64 games on this thing, because the N64, obviously, you need the weird 3-prong controller. I understand why it came on PlayStation games, because obviously, PlayStation had when they first came out, they had the weird controller where it only had the 4 buttons, the shoulder buttons, and then the D-pad. So that makes sense to me. And basically, I just look at the I look at like the Evercade as, if you want to, like, obviously this is a hobby that I do enjoy. I've been doing it for a few years. I've been I bought up a load of games for the PSP and DS and Switch and the Xbox 360, and I've just been collecting games and whatnot. But this has allowed me to actually experience some of the older games, because I'm not a millionaire. I'm just a teenager from England. I don't have billions and billions of pounds to spend on collecting every classic console, Nintendo and Sega and Sony console or Atari console, to collect all the games and then just drop them. I don't have the storage space for them all either. So with the fact that I can just collect the cartridges, because I've got 10 of the 16. I'm missing 6 of the cartridges, obviously, but that's a bridge across when I come to it, because I do intend to get a full set. And basically, I look at the system, and it kind of surprised me, because when it first came out, I was not a fan of it. I didn't want to get an Evercade, because I just thought, oh, it's a bunch of games I've never heard of. Then last time when I kind of started looking at it and started talking to people in the community, like Sutop and Hat on Twitter, and I started watching videos about like Open Every Box Pete and whatnot, and I started to understand why I was appealed to this thing. Because I was born in 2003, so a lot of the consoles that it emulates are before my time. Do you know what's not before my time is obviously Game Boy Advance, but I was only 5 when it was phased out. So this system, it's kind of weird. It's like a step back. It's like me stepping into a time machine to a time that I never actually got to experience myself. And that's what I kind of like about it. I urge any collectors that are trying to get involved in retro collecting now to do it, to go for the Evercade, because let's be fair, taking like an old Atari will probably see you back quite a lot of money. Getting some of the games on here as well, like on the Namco Collection 1. On the Namco Collection 1, there's this game Mappy Kids. Right, it's right at the back. It's one of these ones at the back. It's this one. Well, Mappy Kids was only released. It was only released on the Famicom in Japan and in arcades. So if you want to get that game, you're gonna have to buy an arcade cabinet, or you're gonna have to import a Famicom, which will cost you a few grand, and then you've got to find the copy of the game which works, which will cost you probably a few $100. And then you've got to make sure it all works. It's very complex, right? And basically, you could just pay, get an Evercade and pay 20 quid for the cartridge, and then you can play the game, and you can play a bunch of other Namco games for the same price. And that's sort of like what I look at the Evercade as, is like it's a solution to that problem. Well, yeah, sure, it's not gonna have all the classic games. It doesn't have Sega games, it doesn't have Masters. It doesn't have Sega games. It doesn't have Konami games. It doesn't have Capcom games. So it's not got all the big games. But it's got enough, and it's got a good variety of stuff that is coming out and being added and whatnot every every few months. They announce a new cartridge. Also, the cartridges come out with like a ton of games. Like the arcade cartridges, like they got dozens. Like they got one from Galco, who was a Spanish arcade developer. Now, living in Europe, they were before my time, because apparently they operated between the 1980s and the early 2000s. So I never heard of this company, and looking at some of the games that they're getting on the Evercade, they look kind of interesting. And it also helps with game preservation. Because sure, we might not be able to preserve the old Atari cartridges, they're like 40 years old. But the fact that we've got Atari collections means that we could preserve those games for future generations on this system. And that's sort of how I look at it. Like, sure, it'd be nice if they could do that with Atari 5200 and some of the other consoles out there that we haven't got, that it doesn't emulate yet, and it doesn't have games from. So it would be cool if they were like, hey, here's Game Gear games. Hey, here's here's Atari 5100 games, here's N64 games or not. But that wouldn't be necessary. And in my opinion, they should just focus on trying to get more games. They don't have to worry about aiming at more consoles. They should just try and be like, okay, we're going to make Intellivision Collection free, or we're going to make Namco Collection free, or Atari Collection 3 and 4, or we're going to get Capcom on board. Which that would probably be very awkward considering Capcom just released a collection of their classic arcade games. So that one's probably a no-go. But that's just basically it. It's like, this is a fun system. It's got some great games. And honestly, if they continue to collect, get games that they are getting, like open up new licenses, getting more companies on board, as well as getting a load of homebrew stuff, it would it'd be mental. It'd be a great time. Because we've got the VS coming out in November, which a lot of people seem hyped for. I'm still on the fence if I'm going to buy one or not, because I already have an Xbox Series X, an Xbox One, and an Xbox 360. But if I do, I might invite some friends around, and we'll have some game nights or something, And that's sort of the thing, is the system alone opens a door to so much potential with retro gaming, because if you're new to the hobby, it's a great place to start, because you can get so many games from so many different systems. Remember, 280 games is going to have at the end of the year when those arcade carts launch, so that's a lot. And there's only 26 collections, so you can buy all 26 collections. You've got 280 games to play. Whether you play them on the go or you play them on your VS, that's up to you. And basically, that's just my thoughts on the Evercade as a system and how it makes retro gaming easier for people. Because it's true. Like, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of developers out there that they could just get games from, and there's just hundreds or thousands of games that they can emulate and they get to go on a system. But it comes down to what they choose. And if you're a collector, right? If you're a collector, this is a nifty bit of kit, because it's it's portable. You can hook you've got a micro HDMI thing. You can plug it into your TV, play on your TV like the Switch can. And there are genuinely like hundreds of games to collect for the system, or to play on the system. And it's like, if you get the cartridges, like look at the little cartridge things. Like, they come in a little niche case. You open it up. It's got a full colour manual. It's not got the cartridge in it because it's in my carry case. But that's just kind of it. And this is a great system for collectors. If you're new to the hobby and you want to get involved and you want to experience some of these classic games, maybe you don't want to really become a retro collector and you just want to experience some games from your childhood, this would be a great pick. Namco, Atari, Interplay, Data East, Codemasters, Intellivision, they're all putting their games on it. So it's got quite a big bit of gaming history, and it's great to see it's been preserved. And if you're interested in retro gaming and if you're getting a hobby, I recommend purchasing it. I recommend buying it. It's only like 60 quid for the base version of the system, which comes with a cartridge. And that's basically something the issue. Form your own opinion on the system. And if you want to tweet me your opinion on the system and what games you want to see come, you can tweet me on Twitter at RealENHolloway. And that's just basically my thoughts. And I'll talk to you all in the next video. Goodbye, yeah.